Tired of your space feeling like a hand-me-down museum, but you also want to celebrate those family heirlooms and add those collections while still keeping your home looking contemporary? I'm going to show you how to make vintage furniture and collections work in modern homes without the clutter or the chaos. Before I do that though, I do want to say a huge thank you to Storyworth for sponsoring today's video, but I'll tell you more about them later on. Let's get into it. My very first tip for displaying family photos is to choose family photos in a particular location that are from one family photo shoot. So I know that this is easier said than done, but if you get newborn photos, if you have a family reunion and you take photos, those photos automatically work together because they have the same colors, they have the same background, meaning that you are going to be able to craft a harmonious scene. Now, if you don't have photos from the same shoot or something like that, another good thing to do is to lay out all of your photos on the floor and choose colors that pair together and group those photos together. That can be a great way, again, to keep your photos in colors, but make sure that the collection looks nice together. Now, if that isn't possible, of course you can put your photos in black and white, but I know that loses a little bit of that character, and sometimes it can be nice to have things in color, so that's kind of the last resort in my opinion. And when it comes to choosing frames, frames are going to be paramount in making sure that your family photos look high-end and it doesn't look like a huge collection of just like mess. So one, you want to choose frames that pair well together. They don't all have to be the same color, but they should be the same style. So if you're going for all contemporary frames, go for all contemporary frames. If you're going for all gilt frames, make sure that they all work well together. I think people will use kind of whatever frames the photo's currently in or whatever the cheapest frames are, but I think that's where we have some disconnect, and that's what can kind of ruin the entire scene. I think something people also get wrong with family photos is they will choose family photos that are way too small. You can print family photos in a variety of sizes. All you have to do is go to your local drugstore. Of course, if you have older photos and you don't know how to blow them up or something like that, keep them in a photo album. Keep them in smaller frames, but those smaller frames are going to look nice on your nightstand, on your dressers. We don't want to put those 8x10 photos or those 4x5 photos up on the wall because, again, we're going to have lots and lots and lots of little small pieces. We're not going to know where to look, and it's going to make that wall look super cluttered. Instead, the minimum photo size we're going to put on our wall is going to be an 11x14. Ideally, I want the lowest to be 16x20, but I know some of you guys are going to tussle with me down in the comments. So we want to keep those family photos large. We want to keep them large, and we can go all the way up to 24x36. I want you to approach family photos in the same way we approach artwork. We want that artwork to take up 2/3 of that wall space, and we want all of our family photos together to take up 2/3 of that wall space as well. So the best way to do that is to go large with our photos or large with our frames. Now, if we don't feel comfortable going large with our photos, but we're open to going large with our frames, you're going to pick up a frame that has a large mat. There are tons and tons of frames nowadays that are like 25x25. They're 15x15. They're square photo frames, and they have large mats. They even have rectangular ones with large mats. So you can keep the photos nice and small, but you can have really large mats. And they have mats that are white, they're cream, they have mats that have pattern. That can be a great way also to create harmony with your family photos via those mats. So we want to stay away from the small family photos on the wall. Getting them larger is going to make your space look so much better. And when we're thinking about where to put family photos, or at least gallery walls of family photos, I want you to think entryways, offices, dining rooms. Otherwise, we want to go with single family photos or pairs of family photos, and then we're going to put those smaller pieces, like I said earlier, on a console table, on a nightstand. But we want to not put 50 million of them on one surface. We want to do 1 or 2 per surface so that we can really appreciate the photo and so that we can craft a vignette. Any type of decor, whether it's a family photo, whether it's a collectible, it is still part of a vignette. So we want to continue to follow the rule of 3 and all of those interior design rules that I share with you all of the time. And now that we've talked about family photos, let's talk about artwork, because I think artwork is one of those things that tends to get passed down from generation to generation, and I love that. But what if it's not your style? What if, it's a huge collection and you don't have a massive wall to put all those things up? Well, one of the best things you can do with your art collections, you can disperse the collection throughout the home. We want sets of 2 to 3 pieces of art, maybe 4 per space. We don't want tons of art because we don't want to overwhelm the space, and negative space is really, really powerful in interior design. Another way you're going to be able to use those family photos is above your kitchen cabinets. We tend to have a lot of empty space there. Layer them, and we want to layer them in triangles, so we want to make a right triangle shape with the largest piece on the outside and slope down into the interior. So we're going to layer them on those cabinets. We can layer them on top of bookcases or anchor them above bookcases. We can put them above our nightstands, above our beds. But again, we want to do 1 to 4 pieces per area. We don't want to do any more than that unless it's like a grand staircase or a dining room wall or an entryway, because otherwise it can be very, very visually overwhelming. A good rule of thumb is to only reserve gallery walls for places that have very little furniture. If there's a lot of furniture, there's so many other things that your eyes are going to be drawn to that adding a ton of artwork just doesn't make sense. Another way to refresh that art collection that was maybe passed down to you is to switch out those frames, kind of like I said with those family photos. You can always buy new frames, you can rub and buff those existing frames, you can use washi tape on those existing frames, and you can also elevate them if you don't want to buy new frames with spotlights and picture lights and sconces and things like that. You can always pair a more dated piece of artwork with a more modern light to really elevate the look. You can even switch out the mat and keep that frame for a more modern look. And another great way to add character to your space is with a Storyworth memoir, and I do want to say thanks again to Storyworth for sponsoring today's video. Storyworth memoir is the perfect way to show the people in your life that are important to you, that you care about their life experiences, you want to remember them, and you want to hear from them. And a Storyworth memoir is the perfect gift for Mother's Day or Father's Day, and both of those major holidays are right around the corner. If you're not familiar with the company, basically this is a Storyworth memoir. Every week your loved one will receive an email from Storyworth with a prompt asking them a question about their life, and then they can respond via email, or they can even respond over the phone, and Storyworth will transcribe what they said for their memoir, and that's a feature that my grandmother really loves. As you can see here, I got a Storyworth memoir for my grandmother Phyllis. You guys know I love her and I talk about her all the time because she's the reason why I do interior design, and here's a picture of her from our baby shower. It's one of the only pictures we have together, so it was only right I put this on her Storyworth memoir. But the prompts in a Storyworth memoir are absolutely fantastic. You can see here on the spine it says, "A collection of life stories, Phyllis Brent." And one of my grandmother's favorite things is to create books of her memories, so I love that I was able to create one for her. And prompts include things like, if I could choose any talents to have, what would they be? One of our favorite prompts was, what is your favorite recipe to either cook or to eat? And we thought this one was really funny. We actually sometimes fill these out together as we chat on the phone each and every week. And this one was especially funny because my grandmother, like at her age, she only eats split pea soup every single day for every meal, and I think it's absolutely atrocious. And it's so funny, and what's even funnier is that her library at home, half of it is just full of cookbooks, and they're floor to ceiling. So I'm like, out of all the things in the world, out of all the books you've read, that's your favorite recipe. This Storyworth memoir has given us so many great things to talk about, and we've actually been going through a lot of transitions in our family. She's been a little bit sick, and this Storyworth memoir has honestly given her and myself so many other things and better things to think about. So I'm so grateful for this. And with Storyworth, you can add as many photos as you would like, and you can even upgrade to a full color version. And the crafting of your Storyworth memoir takes a year. So as I said, each week your loved one will receive an email, and at the end of the year you will be able to have your Storyworth memoir in print to have and to hold. And Storyworth as a company is a family-owned business, and they've been around for over 10+ years, and you can trust them to be there for you to create your Storyworth memoir and to print additional copies if you choose to purchase them. And a Storyworth memoir is just a gift that keeps on giving because it prompts really thoughtful, meaningful conversations, and it allows for reflection that maybe that person wouldn't have otherwise thought about in their life. So it's a really beautiful gift. My grandmother has really loved it. And as I said, it is the perfect gift for Mother or Father's Day, both of which are right around the corner. And you can buy this gift for any loved one in your life, and I promise you this is going to be a one-of-a-kind gift that they're going to remember for years to come. For $10 off your year-long subscription to Storyworth and your hardcover book, just use the link down in my description box or scan the QR code up on the screen. I want to talk a little bit about older furniture, because furniture is something that is always passed down, and I often find myself thinking, how on earth am I gonna make this work? You can always refinish or restain an older piece of furniture. I think a lot of people don't like dated pieces of furniture or hand-me-down furniture because they're scratched, but you can always use wood filler, restain them, and give them a brand new look. You can always switch out the hardware on that piece of furniture as well to make it feel brand new. Another way to add character to your home is to take old hardware from maybe a piece of furniture that was handed down to you or from your old home or from your parents' home and add that to your contemporary furniture. That's going to create a nice source of contrast. You're going to have a piece of hardware that no one else has, and honestly that hardware tends to be made so much better, so it's going to add so much character to your space. One of the most heavily passed down pieces I find is a dresser that has an attached mirror, and that is a style that just is not popular right now, but 99% of those mirrors can come off. So one of the ways to upgrade that piece is just to remove that mirror, maybe paint that mirror, use it in a different part of the home and add a different mirror, or add a piece of art that's a little bit more contemporary to create some juxtaposition between that dresser and that piece of art on the wall or that mirror up on the wall. That's a great way to make impact and take that same piece of furniture and disperse all of its different elements throughout the home. If you're dealing with a piece of furniture that's maybe a chair or has some type of upholstery on it, you can always reupholster the piece. They also do have fabric paint. So if you're comfortable tackling a DIY project, that can be a really great way to give that piece of furniture a brand new life. And one of the main ways furniture looks dated a lot of the times is people just have a piece of furniture that needs to be cleaned. So get out your best little green machine or call an upholstery company and have them come in and deep clean your upholstery, and I promise you it's going to start to look brand new. And if a piece of furniture is dated, just put contemporary styling with it. We're actually seeing this huge resurgence in like the modern traditional design style, or even the modern Victorian design style, where people are having really old vintage pieces of furniture, but they're still having like that weird modern sculpture that you might get from a CV2 or something like that. You just kind of have to style with conviction and continue following all of those interior design rules we love to talk about. The next way you're going to add some character to your home without clutter is to add a new lampshade to an existing lamp. I think we live in a day and age where we're like, okay, if we want to switch something, we're going to add something new, but that is always going to add clutter. So a great thing to do is to switch out your existing lampshade, sell your old one on Facebook Marketplace, donate it somewhere. You can also paint your existing lampshade. You can add a block print to your existing lampshade. One of my favorite things to do is to add maybe an older lamp with a more contemporary lampshade. I also love taking an existing vase, maybe one that was passed down, that maybe you don't have flowers for, maybe it's not watertight and you can't put flowers in it, and adding a lampshade to it with a rechargeable light bulb and turning a vase into a lamp. The next way to add character to your space has to do with textiles. So textiles are often passed down through families, whether those are quilts, pillow covers, or even rugs. So one of my favorite things to do is to take one of those rugs, give it a good deep clean it before you do this, and use it as a tablecloth or a table runner. That's something my grandmother always did. And it's always a great way to have a shocking, bold tablecloth, but again, give it a good clean first. You can also use rugs as bedspreads. That's something that a lot of big rug companies are doing now. They're actually showing their rugs on beds. This works best for flat woven rugs because they're a little bit more malleable, so they're easier to drape on a bed. You can also use old textiles, whether it's a quilt, whether it's a blanket, as a wall hanging. You can just use curtain hardware to put it up on the wall and use it as a large piece of art. You can also take maybe scraps of quilts, maybe something that's degraded over time that you still want to celebrate, and frame it in a shadow box so that you have a textile on the wall. Other companies are selling these brand new for hundreds and hundreds of dollars, so why not do the same thing with a textile that has some meaning to you? You can frame a tattered quilt, you can frame a tablecloth, you can even frame old clothing if you want to. It's all about what is sentimental to you and what you want to put up on the wall, but you don't have to use those items for their intended purposes. Next, I want to talk about collectibles, because lots of people have collections, but they're not sure how to display them in a way that doesn't yield tons of clutter and mess. So one, if you have a collection, one of the best ways to display it is in a closed cabinet. So I don't say open shelves for these because open shelves invite a lot of dust, which means there's going to be a lot more maintenance on your collection. So what I want you to do is put them in a curio cabinet, put them in something closed, and then light that closed option. So use a spotlight, use a picture light, use LED light strips to illuminate it so that you can still see that collection, but they're a little bit more enclosed. You're going to have less dusting and they're just going to look better. I also want you to arrange your collections in triangles and in groups of 3. Again, you're going to follow those design rules. It's just going to look a lot better, and you're going to be able to experience each vignette. If you have multiple collections, consider mixing and matching items from different collections so that we can make those shapes, and so that we're varying height and color and pattern and texture so that what you're looking at looks interesting, and so that it doesn't look like repeat of the same thing over and over and over again. Also, try and use your collections in spaces that make sense. So if you like to collect plates, display that collection in the dining room. Don't display that in the living room. It doesn't really make quite as much sense. A lot of collectibles, you can add hooks to them and display them on the wall. This is a great way to display them without adding so much clutter to surfaces, which I think happens a lot with collections, and which as a result leads to people not wanting to display them or not wanting to keep them. Another great tip for collections is just to rotate them out. You can have collections and not display every collection all the time. Sometimes they are seasonal. Something a lot of people collect are ornaments. Of course, we're just going to bring those Christmas ornaments out during Christmas and kind of keep it moving from there. Same thing if you collect maybe bunnies or something like that. Bring them out in the springtime, right, when bunnies are all about, and maybe Easter is around, and make sure your collection is on display during a time that makes sense for you. It's just going to work better with your interior decor and feel less like kind of like an outcast from the rest of your decor. Okay, you guys, that's it for today's video. Those are some ideas on how to add character to your home without adding that clutter. I hope you're walking away from today's video with tons of ideas that are actually going to work for you while keeping your home nice and contemporary like you like it. And for $10 off your year-long Storyworth subscription and your hardcover book, just scan the QR code up on the screen right here or click the link down in my description box. And until next time, have a beautiful day.